MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
There's been another shakeup at the Montana State Hospital here in Warm Springs. I'll tell you what we know.
I'm here to support these missionaries that were wrongfully charged back in November.
Supporters for missionaries arrested in Madison County gathered outside the courthouse yesterday. Coming up, our Kristen Merkel speaks with some of those protesters.
I'm Joe St. George in New York. By now, you've probably heard that some in Congress are interested in banning the social media app TikTok. If that would happen, how would a ban actually work? Would it get deleted from your phone? We explain next.
All right, 6:32 on this Thursday. Chet Lehman, Jane McDonald, Matt Elwell, and the sun's starting to come up over southwest Montana.
Beautiful.
That is the one nice thing about this time of year. The sun is going to feel much nicer than the air did before it came up.
For sure.
Yeah.
But we are looking at some pretty significant changes heading this direction in fairly quick fashion. So let's soak it up while we can. Temperatures this morning, chilly, extra layers as you're heading out the door the afternoon. Mostly sunny, but we are going to start to see the clouds rolling in late in the afternoon, especially west of the divide along the Montana-Idaho state line. By the evening, brings some snow back to the area. It is absolutely gorgeous out to start the morning, just chilly. Afternoon, near 40 degrees. We're going to get rid of a little snow in your front yard before we add more, and it does look like a pretty significant snow heading our direction. I'll talk about the timing and what to expect in just a little bit.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. 6:33, our top story this half hour. Faced with a loss of federal funding, the Montana State Hospital is making some changes.
MTN's John Amy reports the hospital has a new interim administrator after his predecessor placed on leave after less than a year on the job.
There's more upheaval at the Montana State Hospital here in Warm Springs as the interim administrator has been placed on leave less than a year after taking the helm of this struggling state-run psychiatric hospital. The Department of Health and Human Services confirmed Carter Anderson was placed on leave and David Culberson was named the new interim administrator. Anderson was brought in April of 2022 to turn the facility around after it had lost its accreditation and had been under investigation for patient incidents, including deaths. The health department refused to explain why Anderson was replaced. A former employee who worked as an engineer at the state hospital and who was recently fired said low morale continues to be a problem there.
Understaffed. That's what I would see. Is you had a few people trying to do a lot of work, and it becomes frustrating, and people eventually just become, and leave, and those are the good people that you should be trying to keep.
The health department says the new interim administrator brings 30 years experience to the state hospital. We look forward to benefiting from Dave's leadership and expertise in inpatient behavioral health facility management as MSH continues its substantial reform journey after more than a decade of neglect.
MTN's John Amy, thank you very much for that story. Something we'll continue to follow, but in other news, it's a story that we've been following for months. Some North Carolina missionaries who were arrested say they were assaulted and made counterclaims, and they had a court hearing yesterday.
MTN's Kristen Merkel reports on the crowd of people that gathered in Virginia City to show their support for the missionaries.
I'm standing outside of the Madison County Courthouse in Virginia City, where, as you can see behind me, a mobile billboard and protesters have gathered outside of the courthouse to show support for the North Carolina missionaries that were arrested in November following an altercation with a local man.
I'm here to support these missionaries that were wrongfully charged back in November.
It all started on November 12th, a confrontation between several missionaries from North Carolina and local motel owner Brad Terrell. The missionaries claim they were acting in self-defense, that Terrell was threatening them. Now, 3 of them are charged with felony assault with a weapon and claim they were treated unfairly by the Madison County Sheriff's Office. Several people gathered outside the courthouse today to show support to the missionaries on the day of a court hearing.
We've got the big sign here that is looks like it's kind of heavy on the deputies and stuff, but there's really good reason for it.
William Lossberg says he came out to support the missionaries after watching footage from the day of the arrest.
On video comes from the game warden that was involved. And in that video, the officers are all standing around together discussing. And if you find that video and look at it, it looks like they're conspiring.
Paul Landgard believes this case shouldn't have gotten as far as it has.
I hope there's some accountability. You know, the Attorney General office in Montana should have dismissed this case a long time ago.
For John Lamb, he's hopeful the missionaries' case will have a positive outcome.
This hearing probably won't bring much, but I'm hoping for sure that they get found not guilty or the case is just dismissed against them.
The missionaries' trial is set for November, a year from their arrest. In Virginia City, Kristen Merkel, MTN News.
Now, we did reach out to the Madison County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff did not want to make a comment yesterday, but he told us to reach out to him again today. And of course, we will. We'll update later online and on air.
Absolutely. Now on the national scene, the CEO of TikTok is set to go before lawmakers on Capitol Hill today. Now, this testimony is taking place as more lawmakers contemplate voting on a piece of legislation that could result in the ban of TikTok.
That app, of course, used by some 150 million Americans every month, millions every day. Our Joe St. George explains how a potential ban on the social media app might work and why workarounds to still access the site will likely still be available.
Okay, by now you've probably heard that some in the federal government are interested in banning the social media app TikTok. Some in Congress are concerned about the social media site's relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, a relationship that TikTok executives say is way overblown. To be clear, a TikTok ban is still a ways away. President Biden will most likely have the final say. But if one would occur, how would it actually work? Because I'm not a computer scientist or engineer, I wanted to have a quick Zoom chat with someone who is.
It's very hard to remove an app from a phone that already is there.
Douglas C. Schmidt is a computer scientist at Vanderbilt University. He says a possible TikTok ban wouldn't mean the app gets erased from your phone. However, it just might not work. There are ways, Schmidt says, the government could restrict access to new, not previously downloaded content.
It's certainly within the ability of the technology networking infrastructure in the country to be able to ban or block access to certain ports at certain addresses. This is done quite frequently, in fact.
Schmidt says the easiest thing for the government to do would be to ban it from app stores like the ones run by Google or Apple. That would block new users from downloading it and over time make it harder for app updates to take place. App stores could agree willingly to remove the app, or they could try to fight a ban in court.
Removing an app from an app store is not a hard thing to do.
However, Schmidt says if lawmakers in Congress think a complete ban is easy to accomplish, they are wrong. That's because of something known as a VPN. It stands for a virtual private network. He says for those that may be desperate for TikTok, you could connect your phone located in, let's say, Kansas City, and connect it with the VPN, let's say, in Brazil. That, in theory, could allow you to access sites you can't access in the United States.
There's always going to be ways of getting around this.
TikTok, for the moment, continues to increase its lobbying in Washington, trying to prevent a ban. According to Open Secrets, a nonpartisan platform tracking political spending, TikTok has spent over $10 million in recent years trying to convince lawmakers that their app is safe. If a ban happens, the U.S. wouldn't be the first. India enacted a TikTok ban in 2020. Joe St. George, Scripps News, New York.
Interesting. I heard the